So when we think about dementia, it's so easy to just jump to genetics, right?
Yeah.
To this idea of fate. You're either predisposed or you're not. But today, we're diving into this massive new study that uses data from the Framingham heart study. And it really offers a powerful counter-narrative to that whole myth.
It's an incredible source. I mean, if you're talking about the history of preventative medicine, Framingham is, well, it's the foundation. Congress established it way back in 1948, and it started out looking at heart disease. It's how we first get those hard links between, smoking, high blood pressure, and heart risk.
And now that same huge decades-long data set is being used for brain health. So our mission today is to really focus on this one, definitive link the researchers found. How physical activity across your adult life directly impacts your risk of developing dementia.
Exactly. And let's start with the rigor, because that's what makes this so compelling. This deep dive looked at 4,354 adults from what's called the Framingham offspring cohort.
The next generation.
Yep. And they were split into three groups: early adult, that's 26 to 44, middle age, 45 to 64, and then later life, which is 65 to 88. And the follow-up times, I mean, they span up to 37 years.
Okay, but measuring activity consistently across 5 decades. It just sounds, how much faith can we really put in that old data?
A lot, actually, because the measurement was so systematic. Starting in 1971, participants were regularly filling out these detailed questionnaires. They logged their weekly activity, and they even differentiated between moderate stuff like walking, bowling, even vacuuming.
Vacuuming counts. I like that.
It does. And then vigorous activities like jogging, swimming, or, heavy gardening.
Okay, so here's the classic question, the one that always comes up in these debates. Correlation versus causation. How do we know it's the exercise itself, and not just that healthier people tend to exercise more?
That's the core of it, yeah. And to make this really stand up to scrutiny, the researchers had to rigorously control for all those other factors we know impact dementia risk. Things like age, education, hypertension, diabetes.
So they're trying to isolate the effect of the physical activity alone.
Precisely.
Okay, let's get to the numbers, because this is where things start to redefine prevention. What did all those decades of data show for people in middle age?
So for that middle age group, the 45 to 64-year-olds, the finding is pretty striking. The ones with the highest level of moderate or high-intensity activity had a 41% lower risk of all-cause dementia compared to the least active group.
41%. Wow. So moderate to high intensity was key there.
It was the clear champion for that age bracket.
And what's interesting is that for the younger group, the 26 to 44s, they didn't find any statistically significant link. So it seems like the protective effect really kicks in later.
It does, but here's where it gets even more interesting and where the sort of requirements change. You look at later life ages 65 to 88. There, the highest activity group saw an even bigger reduction, a 45% lower risk.
Wait, hold on. So moderate to high was essential in middle age, but then suddenly for people over 65, the reduction is even greater. Why does the requirement seem to drop? Why does any movement seem to matter so much more later on?
That is the crucial nuance. For people 65 and over, the intensity didn't seem to matter as much. Whether it was just light walking or something more vigorous, any intensity of exercise seemed to be beneficial for brain health. It really suggests that the biological mechanism of protection might be changing as we get older.
This brings us to what I think is the biggest aha moment. It directly pushes back on that genetic fatalism we mentioned at the start. We know the APOE4 gene variant significantly raises your risk of Alzheimer's. Can lifestyle really, can it actually overcome your genetic destiny?
Well, according to this Framingham data, potentially, yes. The study found that physical activity in later life still reduced the risk of dementia, even for people who were carrying that APOE4 gene. It's such powerful evidence that your actions can modify your genetic susceptibility even late in life.
Just to be crystal clear on that, though, that protection against the E4 gene, that didn't hold up in middle age, right? This amazing benefit only seemed to kick in after age 65.
That's correct. It introduces this fascinating complexity. It tells us that the timeline of when you intervene is critical, both for the intensity you need and for its power against genetic risk.
So what does this all mean for you listening? The core conclusion, I think, is pretty clear. When you're targeting dementia risk, the biggest payoffs seem to start in middle age, but it's truly never too late. The fact that late life exercise can lower your risk, even with a major genetic marker like APOE4, it just proves that old story of genetic fate is fundamentally flawed.
It reframes the whole preventative conversation, and that finding that any intensity of activity after 65 seems to help, that really stands out. You don't need to go sign up for a marathon. You just need to consistently move.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. If the simplest daily activities, a light walk, household tasks, are actually safeguarding your future brain health after 65, what's one small, seemingly light activity you can consciously prioritize in your routine starting today? That choice might just be the single best investment you ever make.